Nirmala Sitharaman of the National Democratic Alliance, led by BJP, released a white paper on February 8th, explaining the 10 years of mismanagement by the previous government. The government, in this case, specifically means the UPA government, which was in power in India from 2004 to 2014. The paper suggested that the UPA government, under the leadership of Manmohan Singh, inherited a healthy economy primed for further reforms. Still, a once healthy economy became non-performing during its 10 years in power. Why and how did this happen? What was Congress-led UPA's response to NDA's accusations? Let's find out. The Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, introduced the 59-page white paper in Parliament, highlighting the transformative decisions that have steered India towards sustainable high growth. The white paper emphasized the economic challenges left behind by the United Progressive Alliance government after 10 years in power. The paper stated that the UPA's governance failures significantly hindered economic progress, leading to a substantial economic slowdown. Recognizing the need for decisive action, the NDA government, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, focused on strengthening the damaged economic foundations while simultaneously building a resilient superstructure. Nirmala explained that she undertook the project of creating a paper to ensure that future generations remember the impact of the UPA's actions on the Indian economy. The document, accompanied by several pages of data and annexures, aimed to present a case that the current government has revitalized the economy, moving it away from the policy stagnation and mismanagement of the UPA era and injecting it with dynamism, growth, and hope for the people. The purpose of the white paper was to highlight how the UPA government damaged the Indian economy and left it crumbling by the end of their rule. When the NDA government, led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, took office, the gross non-performing asset (GNPA) ratio in public sector banks (PSBs) was 16%. When they left office, it had decreased to only 7.8%. Instead of building a steady and more durable economy, the UPA government focused on maintaining high economic growth by any means after the global financial crisis 2008. This severely undermined the macroeconomic foundations. One such foundation that the UPA government seriously weakened was price stability. The inflation rates were quite high during the tenure of the UPA government, especially between the years 2009 to 2014. To put it into perspective, the average annual inflation rate doubled from 2010 to 2014, and between 2004 and 2014, the average annual economic inflation was 8.2%. This period of elevated inflation rates was compounded by high fiscal deficits, which persisted for 6 years between 2009 and 2014, leading to significant hardships for ordinary and poorer households. One of the most critical indicators of this economic strain was the revenue deficit, which saw a considerable increase during this period. According to the report, the revenue deficit grew almost fourfold, going from 1.07% of GDP in 2008 to 4.6% in 2009. It then rose to 5.3% in 2010, decreased slightly to 3.3% in 2011, and increased again to 4.5% in 2012. Furthermore, the white paper accused the UPA of bringing public finances to a perilous state with very high levels of fiscal deficit. A committee headed by former Finance Secretary Vijay Kelkar pointed out that the deficit was even higher than what was shown. The document estimated that the fiscal deficit was understated by up to 1.8%, as special bonds issued by the Manmohan Singh government were not clearly accounted for. Due to this fiscal mismanagement, the UPA government had to borrow 27% more from the market than it had originally budgeted for in 2011 to 2012. The paper stated that a leadership crisis in the regime led to UPA's failure to seize the opportunity created by the Vajpayee government. The leadership also abandoned the 1991 reforms, for which it often does not take credit. It was stated in the paper that the UPA government failed to support economic activities, instead creating obstacles that hindered the economy. It benefited from the previous reforms and favorable global conditions, but used the resulting rapid economic growth for narrow political gains. The white paper states that, unlike its predecessors, the NDA government invested in the foundations of the economy along with building a sturdy superstructure. Another one of UPA's most infamous scandals would be the banking crisis. The white paper highlighted the massive banking crisis in 2014, stating that the amount at stake was too large. It noted that gross advances by PSBs were only $79 billion in March 2004, and by March 2012, it had increased to $467 billion. Furthermore, not all problem loans were recognized, indicating there were undisclosed issues. Quoting a Credit Suisse report published in March 2014, the white paper mentioned that the top 200 companies with an interest coverage ratio of less than 1 owed about $103 billion to banks. Nearly 44% of those loans were yet to be recognized as problem assets. This would have increased the gross non-performing asset ratio by an additional 6.7%. It resulted in a significant number of bad loans, a high current account deficit, and double-digit inflation for 5 years. This inflation greatly impacted the finances of many Indians and led to India being classified as one of the Fragile 5 economies in 2013. The white paper detailed the actions taken by the NDA government to revive the Indian banking system that the UPA damaged. One of the first initiatives taken by the NDA after coming to power in 2014 was to cleanse the bank balance sheets. Over the past 10 years, the government has revitalized the stagnant financial sector and reformed the credit ecosystem within the economy, leading to significant improvements. This encompasses the implementation of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, along with initiatives to reinforce the financial position of the banking sector, such as conducting assessments of asset quality, establishing prompt corrective action frameworks, providing capital infusion, and enhancing asset quality. When the NDA government took control in 2014, the country's economy was in a weak state. In an era where capital flows dominate, India was facing increased external vulnerability due to its overdependence on external commercial borrowings, ECB. During the UPA government's tenure, ECB rose at a compounded annual growth rate of 21.1% from 2004 to 2014. But in the 9 years from 2014 to 2023, the yearly growth has been at a rate of 4.5%. So it's not surprising that the Indian economy was vulnerable in 2013 when the US dollar rose sharply. Not only that, but the value of currency plunged. During the period from 2011 to 2013, the Indian rupee witnessed a significant depreciation of 36% against the US dollar. The UPA government had compromised external and macroeconomic stability, leading to a sharp plunge in the currency's value. Under the NDA regime, India's external sector is much safer, with foreign exchange reserves increasing from $303 billion, equivalent to 7.8 months of imports, in March 2014 to $617 billion, 10.6 months of imports, in the month of January 2024. During the 10-year rule of the UPA from 2004 to 2014, public investment in capital expenditure, which funds infrastructure and development, was given the lowest priority. As a result, the economy's growth potential was compromised, and the country's growth was constrained. The percentage of total expenditure allocated to CAPEX decreased from 31% in 2004 to 16% in 2014, leading to a supply-constrained economy during the UPA's tenure. The white paper also noted that while capital expenditure was $22 billion in 2014, it increased to $113 billion by 2023. The white paper also pointed out UPA's large number of scams. One of their most infamous scams would be the 2014 coal scam. This scam was described in the newspaper as having shook the conscience of the nation. It was noted that prior to 2014, coal blocks were allocated in a non-transparent manner without following a clear process. This lack of transparency and competition in the coal sector led to inefficiencies and a lack of investments. In 2014, the Supreme Court of India canceled the allocation of 204 coal mine blocks that had been allocated since 1993 after scrutiny by investigation agencies. The white paper also addressed the 2G scam, stating that it had a detrimental impact on India's telecom sector, causing a significant setback. It highlighted that during the UPA regime, the spectrum allocation process lacked transparency and was frequently misused leading up to 2009, ultimately resulting in the 2G scam. This, in turn, initiated the issues that ultimately led to a distressing situation in the sector, as outlined in the white paper. It was noted that in the years following 2010, virtually no or little spectrum could be allocated to the operators. The document argued that this halted the growth of the telecom industry. The white paper sums up various critiques of the UPA government's tenure in India. It points out that over their decade in power, issues such as inflation, fiscal deficits, a banking crisis, poor capital expenditure, and several UPA-related scandals have been at an all-time high. These setbacks have collectively contributed to an unfavorable investment climate. As a result, investor confidence dwindled, with many investors preferring to invest abroad. The paper stated, "To drive investors away is easy, but to win them back is hard." The UPA government also demonstrated that it is easier to hurt the economy than it is to help it. They inherited a healthy economy and bequeathed an enfeebled one to us. We have restored its vitality. The government stated in the white paper that the UPA government did little to build on the strong foundation laid by the previous NDA government. Before we get into the last part of the video, make sure to check out the link in the description for my best recommendation for further expanding our knowledge on a more personal scale. The entire white paper situation was entirely political and controversial, which is why the main opposition, the Indian National Congress, swiftly reacted and came up with its very own paper. However, instead of a white paper, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge decided to release a black paper. The black paper alleged that the past decade has been a period of injustice, characterized by issues such as rising prices, unemployment, subversion of institutions, and discrimination against non-BJP states plaguing the country. The paper primarily focuses on 10 key areas. Some of the most important areas include rampant unemployment, economic blunders, abandoned workers, stagnant real wages, inflation, and distressed farmers. According to an official document released by Congress, the Modi government has seen the highest unemployment rate in 45 years. The unemployment rate in the country for the age group 15 to 29 was estimated to be 13.3% during 2012 to 2013, according to a government report. The unemployment rate for graduates and postgraduates is about 33%, meaning that 1 in 3 are looking unsuccessfully for a job. The black paper from the Indian National Congress stated that the cost of crude oil on the global market dropped by 21% from May 2014 to February 2024, going from more than $100 to $79 per barrel. However, fuel prices remain as high as 95 Indian rupees per liter today, significantly impacting the cost of essential commodities. The opposition party highlighted that the prices of essential commodities were at all-time highs. Congress also pointed out that India's workers experienced a decade of loss, with stagnant real wages. Wages growth has been less than 1% per year for all rural workers, and salaried workers now earn less. They mentioned that the prices of commodities have risen significantly since 2014, with LPG increasing by 120%, milk by 71%, petrol by 37%, diesel by 64%, mustard oil by 59%, and atta, a type of wheat flour used to make Indian flatbreads, by 59%. The black paper also stated that farmers were promised a doubling of their income in the agriculture sector. However, instead of a significant minimum support price increase, they received minimal ones. Here, the minimum support price is the guaranteed minimum price set by the government for certain crops. This price is deemed to be profitable for farmers and is intended to provide them with essential support. The 3 agricultural laws were quickly introduced in Parliament to favor the Prime Minister's business allies. The Congress alleged that 700 farmers lost their lives protesting against these laws. The black paper retaliated against the NDA, who were claiming that they were the ones who pulled India out of an economic crisis and that the UPA mismanaged the Indian government single-handedly. The situation with the white paper and the black paper indicates that mismanagement of the government may have been caused by both the UPA and the NDA governments. The discussion within the white paper on India's economic downturn is a complex and debatable issue. While some argue that the policies outlined in the white paper contributed to the crisis, others point to many other factors. It's clear that the white paper sparked intense debate and questions for the Indian economy. If you like this video, make sure to give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notifications. And if you want to continue exploring the different economic landscapes in the world, you might be interested in this video on the screen.